The year is 1957. While teenagers are wearing poodle skirts or combing ducktails, Arnold Palmer is changing the face of golf and Marilyn Monroe is heating up the big screen. Stephen Juba runs Winnipeg and Duff Roblin is dreaming about really big ditches. And Jack McMahon, well, he owns property in Headingley, which is destined to become Breezy Bend. Actually, the story of Breezy Bend Country Club begins in the summer of 1956. Jack McMahon had purchased Lot 7 in Headingley in 1938, and for almost 20 years maintained a hobby farm complete with lambs, cows, and assorted wildlife. But in the July heat of 1956, he walked over his property, contemplating building his own golf course. His wife, Nell, supported the idea, and according to Jack, "I thought it was something I could do."
We went one day, we went to St. Charles, and I took my wife with me to see a championship golf game out there. And she was so struck with the beauty of the grass. It was green and finished. And she says, "Why don't we do this to our place? We make a golf course out of it." So I said that might be all right. It'd be something I could do. So that's how it got started.
And so on August 27th, 1956, Jack and a bulldozer motored to the back of the property and began working on the 5th green. He notes in his diary, "Did not complete one green in 10 hours and I'm paying $11 per hour." Such a modest start to what would become a multi-year obsession with more complications than even the methodical, organized Jack could have anticipated. By October 1956, the plan grew. Jack bought adjacent land from Joe Harris, and Breezy would be 18 holes. It had become a hobby gone wild, and the ride wouldn't end for the next, 10 years or so. Before the big freeze in 1956, Jack started clearing the 1st and 2nd fairways and bulldozing the oaks on the 8th fairway. The oaks were particularly stubborn, but with the aid of the anchor chain from his yacht Noranda and young Louis Caron, the once mighty oaks fell, but not before gas lines broke and the bulldozer froze. As winter set in, Jack visited Elmhurst Golf Course to sketch various elements. Never know from where one can steal a good idea. In January 1957, he met with John Steele, the greenskeeper at St. Charles, more advice on layout, drainage, and turf. By March, Jack redesigned his course into the configuration that would open in 1960 and timetabled all the major aspects. His diary reflects his confidence and surety. He was indeed a man on a mission. In the spring of 1957, Jack started planting trees, 1,000 in total, to shape and define his fairways. It's worth noting that Jack employed casual labor through most of the building. He would drive into town, pick them up from the unemployment office, and at the end of the day, drive them back. He makes many references to the unreliability of his workforce. In fact, even when he hired semi-permanent help, reliability was an issue. On June 17th, he wrote, "I lost Fred and his brother, who have worked here for a couple of weeks. They quit because I wouldn't lend them money beyond their pay." Again, this was a Jack McMahon project. He was owner, designer, foreman, mechanic, and tree planter. The summer of '57 was spent clearing bush, moving earth, and getting ready to plant seed, all the while swatting mosquitoes. By September 5th, fairways were completed, but he was still a far cry from a playable golf course. During the winter of 1958, Jack planned the irrigation system with help of an expert from Chicago. Jack was never averse to seeking help and advice. 1959 was more of the same. The work was endless, but progress was being made. "Maybe next year," a refrain Jack often murmured. During the winter of 1959-60, plans were made for a clubhouse. Budget $15,000. That eventually soared, and the projection becomes $70,000. Anyone who's ever been his or her own contractor can sympathize with Jack's frustrations, but by now he was committed. So he kept plowing ahead. One can only speculate that his military training had something to do with his dogged determination. Interestingly, the well-known builder and charter member, John Suzuki, helped Jack when the building progress ground to a halt. Breezy has always had willing volunteers. On June 1st, 1960, Breezy Bend Country Club officially opened. Manitoba had a new public course. Golfers, according to Jack's diary, flocked to Breezy, and June 11th saw 264 rounds played. The canteen manager and green fee collector was Nell McMahon. A caterer had been hired, but he backed out, and Jack, along with a staff of 2, cut grass, watered, and filled the ball washers. There are stories that golfers would knock on Jack's door at 7 a.m. to pay their green fees, the hazard of everyone knowing who owned the track. October 10th and Breezy's first year was over. The whole operation was a huge strain on the McMahon family, and in typical Jack fashion, he decided a change was required. Not completely, after all this monster was his, but as his diary reflects, "I want to be free of the job of running the clubhouse and to have Nell free of it too." So that winter, Jack started negotiations with the Charleswood Golf Club. Charleswood was interested, but in the end the deal fell through. Still determined, Jack approached a group of young men headed by Curry McMillan to buy Breezy. They were interested, capital was raised, and shares printed. Breezy, during the winter of 1961, began its life as the newest private course, with Curry McMillan as the first men's president and Isabel Hanna as the first women's president. And just for the record, Breezy was the last private course to open in Manitoba. Jack remained very involved. He may not own Breezy, but it was still his. He served on the board, and at one point early on, he carried the mortgage when the fledgling club experienced financial difficulties. From the beginning, changes happened, sometimes frequently and speedily, and other times, oh so slowly. More than one member has longed for the rolling fairways of southern Ontario, or the steep climbs so common in British Columbia, or the seaside vistas of Cape Breton. But when one plays Breezy, a downhill lie is the side of a bunker, and the closest one gets to a seaside experience is when the winds howl, creating whitecaps on the 7th pond. Breezy is, was, and will always be a stereotypic prairie golf course. It's long in places, and the wind is almost always a factor. However, changes have occurred, and the course of 1961 is very different from the course of 2011. 50 years, and yes, some of the trees are taller. For decades, the layout of the course remained unchanged from Jack McMahon's original design, with one significant exception. In 1988, the 16th hole changed from a 165-yard par 3 to a 200-yard par 3.5 with a large undulating green. Quite a difference. However, starting in 2001, parts of the course started to be rearranged. Holes 12, 13, and 14 were completely redesigned, which increased the difficulty of the back 9. The classic prairie greens, small and somewhat bowl-shaped to allow water to drain off, became modern greens with all the accompanying putting woes. Flooding was always an issue. Drainage on the basically flat course, okay, there is a 2-foot drop from west to east, closed down Breezy for days at a time, and golfers frequently slogged through water and mud and learned to walk on planks to get from one dry spot to another. Over the years, drains were installed which crisscrossed the worst areas, until today, Breezy accepts and disperses water easily. In 1988, Jack's old clubhouse was literally on its last legs. The floors were rotten, the wiring and plumbing suspect, the locker room was so small, members shared lockers and waited in line for one good shower. It was a great building with lots of history, talent nights for 20 years, banquets and weddings, retirements and family gatherings, but still, the time had come and the old gave way to the new. Some members came for mementos and many watched as the bulldozers did their thing. It was the end of an era and the beginning of a new one. Recently, the exterior of the clubhouse has undergone a complete facelift. Walls of stone, a new veranda, and a changed front area. First impressions matter, and Breezy is making a statement. The playing conditions at Breezy have continually improved. Turf science, sophisticated cutting and rolling equipment, and a constant eye to fixing those areas which experience stress, especially tee boxes. Longtime members wouldn't recognize the tee boxes at 1, 10, and 17. They've been raised, lengthened, and framed with stone. But Breezy is not just about grass and stone. It's always been about people, both members and staff, and the thousands who have on many occasions lined the fairways of Breezy. Breezy has hosted the Manitoba Open 7 times, or the Canadian Junior Championship in 1979, or the Canadian Mid-Amateur in 2004, and the list goes on. Skilled golfers have tackled the course. Stuart Henley set the course record 62 in the 1992 Manitoba Open, and others have fared less well. As for employees, well, they're a special group. The course superintendents have done their best to fight water, mosquitoes, and reluctant grass. Names like George Kendall, Michael Kopp, Ian Martinson, and currently Tom Kowalchuk have worked to groom our course. What a thankless job. If everything goes well, it's because of good weather, and if the course suffers, it's their fault. So it has been, and will, one suspects, continue to be so. The first club professional was Al Patterson, who devoted 7 years to Breezy. There were others until 1978, when Sandy Patterson arrived. For 33 years, he has captained the first tee. Quite simply, Sandy's the model to which other club pros aspire, a great golfer and a great person. Club managers such as Rick Nordman, Mitch Redgick, and Ken Esdale have provided members with an excellent environment, a delicate balance of service and cost. Corey Johnson, with his smile and unbridled optimism, is the future of Breezy. His vision for the future is clear and substantial: the best course in Manitoba. The chefs, Tom Carr and for the last 8 years, Klaus Leindecker, assumed the difficult task of providing the 450 picky eaters and their friends and family. That is truly a daunting undertaking. Each year, Breezy's had a wonderful core of young people working in the clubhouse and on the course. They are an enthusiastic group, and they do their very best to make Breezy a special place. And then, of course, we have the players, those rare individuals who actually possess some skill. Names like Garth Collings, 17-time club champion and 5-time Golfer of the Year in Manitoba. Dale Goring, who won the Canadian Amateur in 1997 at Crowbush PEI. Or Edie Stevenson, 7-time Ladies Club champion. Or Pat Fusey, a 5-time winner. And the young Lions today like Jesse Skelton, a member of the 2010 Wellington Cup team, and Alex Crawford, a member of the Manitoba Junior team who competed in the National Championship in BC. These young fellows hit the ball so far that ordinary mortals simply shake their heads in amazement. One mustn't neglect the hundreds of volunteers who over the years donated their time and energies on the board or its various committees or putting together special events. They are the unsung heroes without whom no organization can be sustained. And when all is said and done, Breezy is and has been the friendly club, a place for young and old to golf and socialize. There are second and third generations currently playing, no small testament to the loyalty many feel towards Breezy. Over 50 years, many people have come and gone. Friends have moved on, left the province, retired from golf, or elected more mobile golf opportunities. But there are so many who return year after year. Conversations stopped in October only to be resumed in April with scarcely a missed beat. Groups are created, then enlarged, then reshaped. And so it goes. Breezy claims to be the friendly club, and it is. Ask new members how long they've waited oh so humbly at the first tee hoping for a game. The answer, not long. 50 years for charter members like Albert and Hazel Olson, or Cease Dernan, or Billy Croson. I'm sure it seems like yesterday when they joined the fledgling club. As we look forward to the next 50 years, one hopes that many of our young golfers will have their own great memories upon which to reflect.